So this is Digestive System Part 3. This is the last of our PowerPoint slides for the Digestive System chapter. And this time we're going to be talking about accessory digestive organs. The accessory digestive organs are ones through which food does not directly travel. That includes the pancreas, liver, gallbladder, teeth, and salivary glands. Now, we've already covered teeth and salivary glands, so I'm going to check them off of our list. They were covered back under the mouth and esophagus video, so if you'd like to review them, head back to that video. Right now, we're going to focus instead on the pancreas, liver, and gallbladder as accessory digestive organs. If you'd like to follow me, I am in your course pack on page 92. And we're going to start first with the pancreas, which is a triangular shaped gland. You'll notice here it is snug up against the small intestine, and it also sits behind the stomach. So in the image above, you actually don't see the stomach because it would have been between the liver and the pancreas. The pancreas is actually behind the stomach. If we looked microscopically inside the pancreas, we would notice there are two types of cells. These accessory cells are going to be our focus right now because they're the ones producing the types of fluids or juices that we see in the digestive system. These accessory cells release bicarbonate-rich juices, and that's going to be very important for helping us to neutralize chyme. You may have noticed when we talked about the small intestine that the environment there was around 7.4 to 7.8 in terms of pH. That is way more alkaline than what we found in the stomach, which was around 1 or 2. That's a very acidic environment. So the bicarbonate fluids coming from these accessory cells are going to help neutralize that very acidic chyme that comes from the stomach. You may recall the islet cells were producing insulin and glucagon, and if you're following the course pack, those two hormones go in the blank near the top of your page. Insulin and glucagon were produced by those pancreatic islet cells. Totally different here from these accessory cells. So let me take you to the bottom of page 92 underneath the picture. Let's talk about the function of the juices that come from the pancreas. The target for these juices is going to be the food in the small intestine. All right, so those enzyme-rich juices are, of course, going to help break down the rest of the food molecules coming through the small intestine. Pancreatic amylase breaks down what food groups? Breaks down starches. And pancreatic lipase breaks down fats. Let me be more specific here. When I say break down, I specifically mean to hydrolyze. That takes a molecule, a large molecule, and breaks it down into its building blocks. Last, there's those SYN words, trypsin and chymotrypsin. They help to hydrolyze or chemically break apart proteins into their amino acids. So let's go to your worksheet and fill in those blanks. Pancreatic amylase hydrolyzes starch into glucose. Lipase hydrolyzes fats into fatty acids and glycerol. And of course, trypsin and chymotrypsin break down proteins into amino acids. So we need these pancreatic enzymes to help finish off the process of chemical digestion because we know the major job here of the small intestine is to finish chemical digestion and absorb those foods into the blood vessels. All right, so the other fluid released by your pancreas is an alkaline-rich fluid called bicarbs, full of bicarbonate ions. And these bicarbonates are going to be around 8.4 pH. So the fluids coming in from your stomach are going to be around 1 to 2. The job of these alkaline bicarbonate ions is to bring that pH up to a more neutral standpoint, somewhere around 7.4 to 7.8. So we know that blood pH falls around 7.35 to 7.45. So it is no mistake that we are looking to have the fluids absorbed into the bloodstream be pretty much isotonic in terms of pH with what we're doing here in the small intestine. So let me repeat that one more time. fluids coming in from the stomach have a pH of 1 to 2. That's too acidic to bring into the bloodstream, right? That would rock that pH down, causing acidosis. So what the bicarb ions do is they come from the pancreas into the small intestine, and they bring the pH of the fluids in the small intestine up to somewhere between 7.4 and 7.8. And that's more in line with what we expect to see here with the blood pH. All right, so when you have your course pack handy, if you look on the bottom of page 92, why is it important for chyme in the small intestine to be nearer to 7? That's because we're closer to blood pH, approximately 7.4. Okay, so if you're coming in with an acid or with a base, that can cause fluctuations in your blood pH, and that's not a good thing. All right, so let's talk about page 93 in your course pack. This is going to be about secretin and cholecystokinin. Boy, what two mouthfuls of words there. Secretin and cholecystokinin are hormones produced by your small intestine to encourage the release of bile from your gallbladder and liver and pancreatic fluids from your pancreas to be released back into the small intestine. Okay, so how wacky is this? The small intestine basically sends out hormones. They travel through the bloodstream. Those hormones travel the pancreas, liver, and or gallbladder, telling those organs to release secretions that come right back into the small intestine. Okay, so it's kind of like saying, I'm going to send out an invitation to my party. Please come to my party. And then those three organs release secretions coming right back into that small intestine. So let's talk about secretin first. First of all, you notice it sounds like secretion, which is no mistake there. This particular hormone is released by the small intestine. And you'll notice it's released from the small intestine when we have foods coming through. And it is acid-rich food that is going to trigger the small intestine to release secretin. As all hormones do, secretin travels in the bloodstream, and you'll notice that it will target the pancreas and the liver. So secretin travels the bloodstream to the pancreas, and then they don't have the liver, so I'm just going to put it up here. Okay, so secretin also is going to target the liver, and those two organs now release secretions back to the small intestine. So what do you think the liver is going to release? Bile. Okay, let's trace it. Bile comes from these right and left hepatic ducts, down through the common hepatic duct, down through the common bile duct. The common bile duct joins with the main pancreatic duct right here, and then bile is now dumped into the small intestine. Okay, let's do that one more time. The liver produces bile. It comes from this right and left hepatic duct, down through the common hepatic duct, down through the common bile duct. Right here we join with the main pancreatic duct, and the bile joins into the small intestine. By the way, when you're coming down the common hepatic duct, some of that bile can back up in the cystic duct and be stored here in the gallbladder for later. Likewise, the fluids coming from the pancreas are bicarbonate rich. That's because they're going to neutralize the acidic chyme sitting in the small intestine. So the fluids travel down this main or accessory pancreatic duct, join here with the common bile duct, and of course they too are dumped into the small intestine. That is the main pathway for pancreatic fluids. This, of course, being the sphincter that those fluids travel through. We also know that there is an accessory that comes up here a little further up on the small intestine. Okay, so secretin is released in response to acids in the small intestine, and of course it targets two organs, pancreas and what? Pancreas and liver. And bile comes in to emulsify fats from the liver. The pancreas releases bicarbonate-rich juices. The goal here is to neutralize that acidic chyme. Let's also talk about the next hormone called cholecystokinin, or CCK. All right, I'm going to write the whole word out because it's worth seeing. All right, chol as a prefix, cysto, and kinin. Chol means bile. Cysto means bladder. Well, that's gallbladder. And kinin means move. We call it CCK for short. So that gives me a clue what this hormone is going to do. Now, we know CCK is released by your small intestine as well, but it's released in response to fats and proteins coming into the small intestine. When fats, especially fats, come into the small intestine, CCK comes from your small intestine, travels the bloodstream, and of course targets the gallbladder. Cholecystokinin, gallbladder contract. Now bile travels back out through the cystic duct, comes to the common bile duct, joins here with the main pancreatic duct, and now it's dumped here into the small intestine. What does bile do to fats once in the small intestine? It emulsifies them. All right, so that's half the job. The other job is for cholecystokinin, or CCK, to also target the pancreas. The pancreas now releases enzyme-rich pancreatic juice. Those enzymes travel through the main or the accessory pancreatic duct, join here with the common bile duct. They travel through the hepatopancreatic sphincter and are now dumped into the small intestine. Okay, so this is pretty complicated. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on here. I would recommend listening to this slide a couple of times, drawing it out on your own, using the picture on page 93, and then after several times, this will start to make some better sense. Okay, and if you have any questions or want to talk it through, please send me an email or we can chat. All right, so just an interesting note here that CCK and secretin also inhibit the stomach's activities. When your stomach is emptying, we want the fluids to flow out of the stomach slowly. We don't want to act like a bathtub and just pull the drain and let everything empty at once. We want only about a teaspoon's worth of fluids to travel from the stomach to the small intestine. That way the small intestine is not overwhelmed with the process of getting those foods broken down and absorbed. So CCK and secretin actually go back and inhibit the stomach's activities. So this is also a good slide to use to help keep straight what's happening with secretin release. You'll want to know where secretin is released, what the target organs are for secretin, and what types of fluids now travel into the small intestine as a response. So let's answer all three of those questions. Secretin is made by the duodenum or small intestine. Secretin targets two organs, the pancreas and the liver. And the goal here of secretin is to cause the pancreas to put bicarbonate-rich juices back into the small intestine to neutralize chyme, while the liver releases bile into the small intestine to help emulsify fats. Okay, so this could be a good slide that you could use as a flashcard. Let's talk through CCK. Again, you'll want to know where it's made, what are the target organs of CCK, and of course, what is made in response to CCK's presence at those target organs. Same as secretin, the target or the source here is of course duodenum or duodenum of the small intestine. Target organs here slightly different, pancreas, but not the liver. This one's pancreas and gallbladder, and I keep that in mind because it literally means gallbladder move. That's the root there of CCK. And the end goal is to get enzyme-rich juices coming from the pancreas into the small intestine. That helps us to break down or hydrolyze the remaining food groups there. The gallbladder, of course, releases bile that's been stored into the small intestine. That also assists with emulsification of fats. All right, so that should take us to the bottom of page 93. I think I will save the liver and the gallbladder details for a separate video.